Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Never Miss a Monday podcast. I am your host, Stacey Garcia, and I could not be more excited to introduce you today to our amazing guest. Her name is Wendy Snyder, and she is a certified positive parenting educator, family life coach, and founder of Fresh Start Family, where she helps families ditch fear-based discipline and raise strong, emotionally healthy kids with compassion and confidence. Through her podcast, courses, and coaching programs, she's guided thousands of parents to break painful generational cycles and create homes rooted in connection, peace, and purpose. Wendy lives in Southern California with her husband, Terry, her high school sweetheart, and their two kids, where they're rewriting their own family legacy, one grace day filled at a time. So nice to see you, Wendy. Thank you so much for being here.
Stacey, thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be here today to have this conversation. It's going to be fun.
I can't wait. And I started listening to some of your podcasts and I was like, how have you not been in my life? And I'm sure everyone says that to you when they meet you, because if you're a mom and you have a strong-willed, feisty, fiery, just free spirit of a child like I do, and like I think a lot of us do, and you have felt so lost, you're like, okay, now you are going to help in so many ways. I can already feel it, even though I've never
Oh, so
met
good.
you. And I'm so glad that so you originally found me when I was a guest on Dana Hunter Verdella's podcast. Love
Yeah.
Dana. She's the best.
Yeah. Her energy is amazing. I love her.
She has the best energy. And then Kathy Heller. So we have all of these amazing women in common, which is so amazing. So thank you so
Cheers
much
to,
for,
yes. Cheers to
yes.
good women.
I'm so excited for all of the people listening to the podcast to hear all of your wisdom. So we're just going to get started, Wendy. For anyone who's new to Fresh Start Family, how do you describe the heart of your work and the mission behind it?
Yeah. So I think it's evolved over the years, but I say now when people ask me, like, what do you do? I usually answer with, I help people go from stressed and frazzled to peaceful and empowered, and especially parents who are raising a beautiful, strong-willed child that on some days you like kind of worry that you don't know if you really like your child. You know you love your child. You know you love them. Like they are amazing, and you're down with everything that everyone always says, like, oh, you're going to be thankful one day that they have that strong will and they're going to be, as we always say, future leaders. But like most days, you're like, oh my God, why does this have to be so hard? Like, I'm not even sure I like this small human being that looks and acts just like me. But yeah, we help parents do that first and foremost. We want to take parents who are used to, like, what we would say is using hand-me-down parenting tactics. So usually that's fear and force and bribery and rewards in some sort. So yelling, threats, punishment, shame, guilt, right? Like those are kind of the external controls that a lot of us inherit. And when you become a parent, you're just like, that's just what you do, right? Like when I found this work when my daughter was 3, I thought I was going to lose my mind. And no one had to teach me how to put a kid in timeout. No one had to teach me how to like lecture them and punish or take away their TV time or like reward them with a jelly bean because they stayed in bed or peed on the potty or whatever. I just inherited it, right? And then it took me kind of hitting rock bottom to realize that I just needed to learn a new way, that I was under-supported, and that those beautiful, strong-willed children, they really are usually the ones in the family that raise the red flag on the broken system. And so in the end, once you get deeper into our work, what we're really doing is we're helping parents escape like autocratic or authoritarian systems and lean into democratic, firm and kind systems where the influence a parent has is really based on relationship and connection and firm kindness, which gives a parent true power. So my book that's coming out in May is called Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home. And the reason why I've really been leading into the term powerful parenting lately is because all of those hand-me-down stuff, they just it's false power. It's not
Mm.
sustainable. A lot of people who really rely on that and don't find their way out of it, they end up having teens that rebel because it's just not sustainable long term. So the strong-willed child usually comes into the mix and gives the parent the opportunity, if they accept the invitation, to learn a new way to influence that, again, is based
Mhm.
on true respect. So we teach a lot about modeling, right? Like
Yes.
like getting rid of any hypocrisy in your home, right? The classic that I think we all can relate to is like, you are screaming at your kid, like, stop it, stop freaking out, what, like, just chill out, walk
Mhm.
away if you're mad at your brother as we're like yelling at them. And they're watching us yell at them. And they, like, strong willed kids are just really good at calling out hypocrisy, and they will not adhere to a system where hypocrisy is present. So they give us that beautiful opportunity to realize, oh, there's something within me that is still modeling the behavior that I don't
Mm.
want. And so once you go on that journey of moving from reactive to responsive parenting and realizing that we really are leading the way. We all
Mhm.
think that, especially if you have a more difficult child, air quotes difficult, that it's like them that needs to change, but often we joke the apple doesn't fall far. And so once you have
Mhm.
the courage to work on yourself without shame
Yes.
or guilt, it's like boom, things just start to line up and fall into place. Kids start to behave way easier. You start to actually
Mhm.
like your kid again because you can see the beauty in them. So yeah, that's a really long answer to your question of like, what is Fresh Start Family all about?
I mean, it's amazing, and there's so much I wanna touch upon, but the first is I love your labels. They're really
Oh,
beautiful
nice.
labels. We've all heard generational trauma, quote, unquote, "trauma" for so long, but
Yeah.
you use generational cycle, which is, like,
Yeah.
so interesting because it's true, they are cycles. It's something that we can stop. We can definitely stop that cycle once we're aware. So, my spirited child, if you will, is
Yeah.
gonna be 9 very shortly. And whenever, his birthday comes up, he loves hearing birth stories. He just wants to relive everything. And so we always joke because I do believe that their personalities, they're within the womb, really. They're really developing these personalities. So when they come
Agreed.
out, so my daughter's older, and when she was born, she pretty much went straight, like, out of the canal, straight to my chest, started nursing. It was
Mm.
just like what you see in the movies, right? When my son
Oh,
came out, he was like, "Where is it?" Like, he was so, like, turned around, and I remember lactation consultants coming in and saying, "He's fine. It's just gonna take him a second. Like, he's gonna do it
mm,
his way." And I didn't have anyone come to the hospital except for my daughter and my parents and sister. No one else came. With my daughter, the whole world came. I was like, "I need 24 hours to be literally naked and connect with my child. I don't want
yeah.
anyone messing it up." And it was such a different experience. And to this day, he has been such a different experience, but he has taught me more about myself than anyone in
Mm,
this world. And it's
bingo.
something
Yep.
that I've been realizing lately too, because I recently, and I still am going through a challenging period in life, and I
Mm,
realized that when I'm down, he's down. And even though
yeah.
things can be going on in my life, if I just shoot him a smile across the room and he feels my energy, everything shifts. So I
Yeah.
am now so alert as to my energy when I'm ever with my children. And like I said, just, I like to call him a challenge. He really has challenged me to become a better human. So, anyways, I just wanted to
That's
share that
so
with you.
good. Yes, I love it because not everyone's birth story is similar with the strong-willed kids, but I have met a lot of people, and we teach the way we teach about strong-willed kids is there's different levels, right? So there's like kids in power surge stages of life, so that's usually
Mhm.
between the ages of 2 and 6, and then the tween and teen years where they're pushing for the autonomy and the independence, and they will test every boundary. But those of us
Yeah.
who have a true strong-willed child, many of us have this similar story where you can feel it from
Oh,
birth. You
absolutely.
can feel it, like, nothing was, air quotes, easy, right? Like it's the same with Stella. Like Stella was a very traumatic birth. Thank God we're both alive. We joke that she was like, A,
Mm.
she didn't want to come out the womb. She was like, I'm not ready. And then once she did, she had to fight to be here. Like she had to fight. Thank God we're still alive.
Uh,
And then everything, nursing was so hard. Like the bonding was so hard. Like it just, from the beginning, since she was a small child, I swear, we used to take her to parties. I'll never forget her first year of life, like being at Christmas parties, and people would
mhm.
be like, oh my God, she's so cute. And she would just scowl at them, like, don't you dare touch me. And she always held her. She was a very
Oh.
muscular baby. Like we'd hold other babies and they were like felt like a tub of butter. They were just
Mhm.
squishy, and Stella was like always kind of like muscular and like held her head up
Mhm.
high, very young, and you could just feel it. Like this child had this
Mm.
spice about her, and still to this day, thank
Yeah.
God, because of this work in like my world, there's a lot of people who teach how to break a child's will, and like
Mm.
that's a problem if they're like testing your authority, and I help parents not listen to that. But thank
Yeah.
God we didn't listen to that. We had plenty of that advice because she is 18 now, and
Wow.
she just secured her Division I beach volleyball spot at a top 10 school, which is a feat
Amazing.
that only 1% of high school athletes reach. But that is the power of a strong-willed kid, right? Like they test you to your core, but if you can really fall in love with that spiciness, or we
Mhm.
often refer to
Mhm.
them as cactus
Mhm.
kids, it's
Mm.
such an adventure. And that sounds like that's kind of what you're on at 9, if you're like, wow, okay, this is wild. This is wild. And it's making me grow, but it's just so cool to see the way they do life and the things they call us into.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, there were times that were really challenging. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I know so many parents out here are listening right now, feeling exhausted, reactive, like they're constantly falling short. From your perspective, what's really going on for modern parents nowadays?
Yeah, good question. So I will say that if you are exhausted and reactive, you are in good company. So at this point, we've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of families. We have parents that we help from all over the world, and we do a lot of polling. And
Mm.
the number one pain point of our families is, I used to think that it was because I used to think it's because they have a strong-willed kid. That's their pain point. Like,
Mhm.
what do I do with this kid? He won't change, or she won't change, or she's so difficult. But as time went on, we realized the number one pain point is feeling like your emotions hijack you. Like you
Mm.
are in this reactive state
Yeah.
that all of a sudden you become a parent and you're like, who am I? Like I was not like this, right? Like a lot of us,
Mm.
we all of a sudden are so triggered when a 4-year-old won't put on their shoes, or they just won't go to bed, or are testing boundaries, and like all of a sudden we become reactive.
Mhm.
So that is the number one pain point we hear from parents, is like, I just want to feel
Yeah.
like I can have control of my emotions and not be
Mhm.
so reactive all the time. And so what we see is really going on, and this has really developed more and more in our work the last few years, is the nervous system really is at play. So
Right.
because most of us inherited that autocratic or authoritarian model, the idea of an imperfect child, or a child that doesn't listen the first time, like in our world,
Mhm.
we have a lot of people who
Mhm.
were brought up with like instant
Mhm.
obedience expectations, or just a child making a mistake, is the nervous system really reads it as danger. And
Mhm.
so the beauty about the nervous system is it's just trying to keep us safe. It's this beautiful design that works
Amen.
on predictability and probability, not possibility. And so when you are a painful generational cycle breaker, which just means you
Mhm.
are stepping into a new legacy that like that wasn't the norm in your family, right? And
Mhm.
when I talk about painful generational cycles, it's not just the parents who grew up with like hitting and harming kids normalized, or like a lot of our families, it's like spanking was the way. And then a lot of times
Mm.
that's combined with religion, which really does a number on people. But it's
Yeah.
also painful generational cycles, is also the lack of conflict resolution, the
Yes.
inability to understand your emotions, like the lack of emotional literacy. Um, those are, or even being critical. or like living your life in a very
Mm.
judgmental way. Those are examples of painful generational cycles that we see
Yeah.
passed down. And so the nervous system just kind of soaks all of that up. Usually it's
Right.
what it witnessed in its first decade or two of life, and that almost
Mhm.
becomes the norm. So then you grow up and you're like, okay, I listen to these podcasts or read these books like conscious
Mhm.
parenting or
Mhm.
positive or powerful,
Mhm.
whatever word you resonate with. And it sounds like a great idea. But then you're like, but then I go to implement it and I
Mhm.
still end up reacting, or I still end up yelling or grabbing a wrist too tight or just not knowing what to do. Some of our parents become permissive and they withdraw.
Mm.
But it's really usually just the nervous system
Right.
replicating what it grew up
Mm.
with. Every
Mm.
once in a while, I'll meet a parent who's like, I don't operate anything like, but I mean, it is very the way they grew up, but it is very
Mhm.
rare to meet someone who isn't basically repeating the pattern
Right.
until they have the awareness to break it. So the way we see it is like we just give
Mhm.
ourselves so much compassion because, like, for someone like me, I've been in this work about 15 years now. It took me 7 years to stop yelling. And that wasn't because I wasn't trying hard enough. It took me a while to retrain and rewire my nervous system to see that it was safe in those moments where it felt like the child was doing X, Y, Z, or I was feeling scared of being out of
Mhm.
control. So yeah. So we do a lot of nervous system rewiring work around Fresh Start Family nowadays, and we find that that really helps. Does that
Mm.
answer your question? I'm like not
Yeah,
even
no, it
remembering exact.
does. It does. And I want to go even further with it. So if a parent right now is listening and thinking, this is me, I can't get it right, what do you
Mm,
want them to hear in this moment?
yeah. So you are doing a great job. Parenting is really
Mhm.
I think most of us would agree, it is the hardest thing that most of us have ever done. And I say that if you're raising a strong-willed kid. I think if you get a mild child or chill kids, it still will test you, but
Mhm.
there's nothing like the ones that really are these strong-willed kids that we're talking about. And you're doing a great job. You're just in this journey of like learning
Mhm.
and growth and all the things. My little girl said to me at one point, the one that's 18 now, she was
Mhm.
about 7. And I was knee deep in like a punishment cycle where her and her brother were fighting. And at this point, I had been in the work a little bit.
Mhm.
And still would revert back to like my old
Mhm.
ways, right? So I had learned how to replace punishment with compassionate discipline, but I would still like the claws would come
Mhm.
out, mom would react. And one night they were fighting, and I'm sure they like one of them pushed each other or whatever. And I was like, that's it. You're going straight to bed. You're eating your mac and cheese at your desk.
Mhm.
And it was probably like 6:30. And it was like, you're going straight to bed. That's it. And they're crying and they're both like, Mama, please, please, please don't do this. And she is like more the savant, so to speak, of like this work. And that's why I write so much about her and share our experiences. But she walked into my room. She's crying and she's like, Mama, look at me. She's 7 years old at this point. Her brother was 4, she's
Mhm.
7. So we'd been in the work she had been learning this work with me about 3 years, 3.5 years. She said, Mama, please don't do this. She said, look, Taryn and we've learned from this, and I promise you, we're going to make different decisions tomorrow. She said, but we're all just learning. You have only been a mom for 7 years, and I have only been a kid for 7 years. We're just figuring out how to do this thing called life, which is something I had said to her many times by this point. She said, please, we can end the night differently. We can start fresh. And I was like, holy, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on the show. Holy smokes. Like, what? And so I'm a very stubborn person. And it's like traditionally, I
Mhm.
stand on my ledge pretty hard, but that kid has always been the one that can walk me off. To this day in conflict, she can come up to me and be like, Mom,
Mhm.
let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Let's both take responsibility for our part. But the point of me telling
Mhm.
that story is we're all just learning. And we're
Mhm.
all just like the people who are part of this conversation are the ones that have the courage to
Mhm.
say and raise their hand and say, there's something that's just not quite right. And so
Yeah.
that's why you're looking at your patterns.
Mhm.
And that's why
Mhm.
so you're not failing. You're incredibly brave.
Mhm.
And I promise you that you're doing a great job if you are here listening to this, and you just gotta get really good at seeing your mistakes as opportunities to learn and
Mhm.
understanding that every single moment of every day is an opportunity to start fresh. That's it. That's the
Wow.
game. That's the game.
That's an amazing story, and, like, what a amazing teacher of a child you have there, an old soul. So how
Yeah.
can parents begin to interrupt these, like, reactive patterns, if you will, without adding shame or feeling like they have to overhaul everything all at once?
Yeah. So, one of the strategies, so to speak, that we teach is what we would call a stop sign. There's a whole chapter in the book about this, or a pause button or heart connector, where you just develop the practice of creating a space between the stimulus and the response. So this is
Mhm.
a concept that Viktor Frankl, he was a mid-century renowned psychologist that was just amazing in the work that he created. He was a prisoner of war in Nazi Germany war camps. He lost his wife and his pregnant wife and his parents there, but he developed this psychology around how we really are capable of creating that space between the stimulus and the response and finding joy and purpose even
Mhm.
in the hardest of situations. And so it really becomes about um, learning to signal safety to your nervous system and remember that it is safe and to step to the side and get back in touch with the part of you that has to
Mhm.
do more with, like, your prefrontal cortex, which is where the creative thinking, the logical thinking, creativity, curiosity, problem solving, it's gonna live there versus when we have those knee-jerk reactions, that's when the amygdala kicks in, the catastrophizing, the jumping to old patterns, and so learning that one tool and
Mhm.
practicing it over and over and over again till you
Mhm. Mhm.
find some success is what we find opens the door to then be
Mhm.
able to, like, come back to things when you are centered versus when you are, like, really, like, on an emotional roller coaster, so to speak. Most things, I think most parents would agree after you're
Mhm.
out of that, like, big triggered moment, most things in parenting actually aren't a four-alarm fire, but they feel like it in the moment because of the nervous system
Mhm.
conditioning. So, yes, everyone always wants to ask me,
Mhm.
like, what if they're putting their hand on a hot stove or running in the road? Like, yes, please yell. Please grab them as tight as you can and get them in the car, the house to get them safe. But most of the time, it is safe to rewire, to slow down, to learn how to implement that one tool
Mhm.
inside that space. We teach parents how to call on healthy intentions versus and to acknowledge when they've, like, have a pattern of the unhealthy intentions. So healthy intentions are like to teach, to model.
Mhm.
Those are, like, my favorite 2, like the teach for sure. Unhealthy intentions include, like, to show them who's boss, to make sure they don't get away with that, to put them in their place, to make it hurt so they don't do it again. Those are just ones that we wanna release, even,
Mhm.
especially if you were raised with that kinda stuff, and just know that you are capable of leading in a new way, and often that does come once you've given yourself at least a hot second to either go to the bathroom, fill up your water before you
Mhm.
handle the situation. You just become more empowered as a teacher and guiding your children, and they accept the lesson more once you put just a little bit of space
Mhm.
between the trigger and your
Mhm.
leadership as a parent, your response.
Amazing. So, what would be like one simple reset or practice parents can do next time they feel like they're about to snap?
Yeah. So we've lately in the Fresh Start Experience, which is our membership, we've been doing daily nervous system drills that give
Mhm.
you something to do because a lot of our parents are really kinesthetic. So just the thought work in itself
Mhm.
often isn't enough to pull you off the ledge, and then you end up still yelling or grabbing a wrist too tight or jumping to punishment. Like, that's it. Your iPad's taken away, which just makes things worse.
Mhm.
And so, the last few months, we'll come together every morning, and one of the latest little mini breath tools that we taught is called a physiological sigh. And so we would combine that with, like, a literal trip to the bathroom where you go to the
Mhm.
bathroom for 3 minutes
Mhm.
or you step out into nature. So like out in the backyard. And we always say nature soothes all of our souls, but especially our children's. But it is my number one nervous system regulation tool. Like now I have an office where I look at a palm tree and the blue sky, and a crow always comes and visits me. But like
Mhm.
nature is just one of the many tools that we teach to ground yourself and bring your nervous system back to safety. And then
Mhm.
you can combine that with the thought work of like, okay, what is my intention, right? But sometimes that's a physical step. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's just having like reminders or things on your fridge that's like, I can go to the bathroom, I can fill up my water, I can step outside, I can ask a spouse for help. But that's like, if we're talking about creating that space, that's like, whew, you just want to bring in a little bit of a nervous system
Mm.
thing so you don't think you have to just white knuckle your way into it via your mind, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely, those are great tools. So let's talk about repair. Let's
Yeah.
say, God forbid, something, goes sideways.
Yep.
What does a healthy repair look like?
Yes. Repairs are my favorite. And I feel like in this body of work, they are way more important than like perfection is never going to happen. Never, ever, ever. Like I've been in this work 15 years and just like last week, was it 3 weeks ago? I was like literally on the phone getting frauded. It was a public service announcement.
Ugh.
Banks will never call you. Did you know this, Stacey?
Yes, I do, but that's so scary. Oh
I
my
did
God.
not know it. Maybe that means I'm old. They
Mm.
called me and were like, someone's trying to charge your card in New York City for, 1,400. And I was on the phone with them and like thinking that they were trying to help me. Anyways, it was awful. And my son left like this wrapper that the dog ate and I lost it on him. I lost it. So my point is, I think I probably even cursed at him. He's 15 years old. Put the phone on mute to the fraudster that I thought was helping me. And I literally looked at him and I yelled at him. I might have cursed at him. And then I was like, the next day, I'm like, oh, okay. Gonna have to tell my community about that one. So I'm always like very,
Ugh.
very um, real with people that like it doesn't just go away. It is not about perfection at all,
Yeah.
but it is about like slowly and surely retraining the mind to do it differently. So my point is so I am far from perfect as a parent, but I have mastered the repair. That's what I want parents to hear is like, especially if you're a painful generational cycle breaker, right? Where like in
Mhm.
my home, yelling was a way. Like we did not have peaceful conflict resolution. We
Mhm.
did not come back to the table after we had an argument and like talk about what we learned and take responsibility for
Mhm.
our part. Like not a thing growing up.
Yeah.
So it's new to me, right? Even 15 years old, 15 years
Wow.
in, it's still new to me. And so repair looks like seeing humility as a superpower, first off. That's a
Mhm.
concept that I love. Mother Teresa talks so much
Mhm.
about that humility can change the world. I really believe it's the greatest superpower for a parent because it like you will find that if you master how to be humble and just take
Yeah.
responsibility for your part of the dance, your kids very fast in a fast way do the same
Mhm.
thing. So it just looks like coming to the table after everyone's had a moment to come back down
Mhm.
and just say, that didn't go as planned. Here's what I've learned. Here's where I'm realizing I get the most triggered. And then we would normally bring in emotional literacy to that. So in the moment, I think what was happening was I felt really scared. So in that moment, I was screaming at Taryn. When I looked back on it, I realized I was
Mhm.
just feeling very hurt and like taken advantage of. So like whether it was the fraudster who I thought was helping me, but I thought someone was stealing my money in New York City, or the kid, the teenager that doesn't clean up his mess. Like it was a feeling of hurt. And in that moment, I just made a mistake and didn't process it in a healthy way that respected myself and others. I took it out on him.
Mhm.
And so the ability to share with a child, hey, this is not the behavior that you deserve. You did not deserve to be yelled at. You did not deserve to be hit or had to like put down on that timeout too hard or whatever. And I am learning. And
Mhm.
thank you for your grace and forgiveness. And here's how I'm going to make a difference. Here's what I'm learning. Here's the coach that I booked with. Here's the program that I joined.
Mhm.
And what I want to do is learn how to influence you with integrity and the dignity you deserve, right? So it kind of can look like that. And then um,
Mm.
redos or role plays can be really big. Also, makeup. So those
Mhm.
three things that I just mentioned are three strategies we teach in our compassionate discipline work that replaces punishment. So makeups is like when and you teach your kids how to do this by modeling. So like you
Mhm.
would say you screamed at them like me, right? Like, and I did do a makeup for Taryn. I'm trying to remember what was the makeup. I think I went, was that the day? I think that was the day it was. I went to Pressed Juicery and he
Mhm.
got a mini fridge for Christmas. And so I went and he had said, I want to get these little shots that fit in. And so I
Mhm.
went, I had a membership, I had money on my account anyways. And so I got him like 10 little shots. And I came home and I sat down on the bed and I made sure I did
Mhm.
exactly that. I said, this is just a little act of service to let you know that thank you. Thank you for your grace. Like I am learning. And in that moment, I was feeling hurt and I was so overwhelmed and it's no excuse, but like, here's what I am strengthening my practice in. And he was just so, um, of course, you know, kids are like, it's okay, mom. It's okay. I understand. And then 2 nights ago, he was like on his phone more than I wanted him to be. And I was like, buddy, it is time. And I really got very firm with him. And I was like, this is a problem. We need to discuss this. And I was like, I'm going to go separate because I just kind of like a little bit of stormed off, but
Mhm.
like, this is not working. And then he came up to me in my bedroom, 15-year-old boy, after having like an emotional conversation with his dad and sat down and said, hey, I'm willing to take responsibility for this. You're right.
Wow.
This is something that I'm learning
Mm.
and I'm willing to see that it is consuming me. And so you're right. And so do you see the modeling? Like that's what the repair does.
Yes.
And there's no like, I would rather a family be really good at repair. Now, granted, I have parents ask me all the time, yeah, but I just keep yelling. I'll say I'm sorry. And then I just go back to yelling and I feel like crap. And I'm like, we're not coming to the table saying I'm sorry. That's a very like
Mhm.
cultural conditioning that's going to make everything better. That does not make anything better. You're coming to the table saying, I'm taking responsibility for my part. And here's what I'm doing to change and learn. And here's what I'm open to. And you didn't deserve to be talked to like that. So that's redo or that's like I gave you
Repair.
an example of a makeup and
Mhm.
repair, and then
Mhm.
role plays and redos are a great way to do that too. And that's just where you
Mhm.
act out the thing again. I think kids under 10 love role plays and
Mm.
redos because it actually gives you the opportunity to practice doing it differently. So if I was going to do a redo in that
Mm.
situation and Taryn was little, I would say, hey, can you just do the same thing, but this time I'm going to practice doing a pause button, stepping to the side, signaling safety, and then coming up and handling it in a way that I feel really good about the way I talk to
Mhm.
you or whatever. So yeah, role plays, redos, um, and makeups. Those are like a really great way to get repair going in your home where the long story short is we want children to grow up in a place where they realize mistakes don't make you bad.
Yeah.
They they don't define you. Everybody is gonna make
Yeah.
mistakes. Like, we're all working on something, and so when we are humble about it and we say, "Okay, let's work this out together," it just makes
Right.
things much easier.
Right. No, I so agree. And it also makes us more human, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that's something that a lot of parents make the mistake of they think they need to control their children, which they really don't. And what you've said is, kids really need firm and kind leadership, not control. Talk about the
Yeah.
distinction between those two, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So, in my experience, the kids that have more control over them in the home and the
Mm.
way I usually say it is this, like, Um, oftentimes we're speaking to a parent who has a power kid, so it's another way of saying strong-willed, or we call them cactus kids.
Mhm.
But a lot of people think if those type of kids, if you give them more power, they're going to become like dictators, right? But actually, we see the opposite. So the more power you give a child in the home, the less they demand it out in the world. So when you create an ecosystem of like power with another human being, which is really like we call it powerful
Mm,
parenting. I'm also starting to play around with the term democratic parenting. This is how healthy
mm,
democracies work. You share the power, and
mm,
the place of cooperation comes from true respect. And so, yeah, it's just the idea that the more you empower a child, the more cooperation they have. So oftentimes a kid in a power struggle, misbehavior. So we teach 4 different categories
mm,
of misbehavior: power, revenge, inadequacy, and attention. And a kid who's in a power struggle or a power misbehavior has a mistaken belief that in order to feel powerful, I must overpower others, often because
mm,
that's what's been modeled to me. And so when you
mm,
start to teach a child, oh, actually, I
mm,
can feel very powerful as the leader of this home. I can set firm, kind boundaries and like have kind of calm confidence authority, but without overpowering you and squashing your desire to feel
mm,
powerful, then all of a sudden you just start to see children thrive. And at this point, we've helped so many families where you just see the opposite go down. When there is the power over structure, which is how the autocratic or
mm,
authoritarian systems work,
yeah.
the kid rebels, especially if they have any type of strong will. They will revolt against the
Mm,
system, or they get so sick of it that they end up getting really good at hiding, lying, defending, justifying. And
mm,
so we just see in the end it doesn't work. Like you have to maintain such high levels of the power over or the fear and force. And then oftentimes just later in the teenage years, that's where the rebellion comes out. So the
mm,
control is I just really believe that none of us were ever designed to control another human being. We were designed to control ourselves. And when you control yourself, so to speak,
mm,
by like tending to your nervous system and standing in like what is true power, like knowing why your firm boundaries, like why
mm.
you believe in certain things and like you have confidence around that, then people around you just naturally respect you way more than thinking that you're ever going to control another human being.
Wow. Yes, that makes so much sense. So, can you give us an example of what firm and kind leadership looks like in real life, especially during
Yeah.
some hard moments?
Yes. Okay. So there's a chapter in the book where we teach what we would call our 4 step firm and kind parenting blueprint. And this is really where you tap into everything we're talking about. And a lot of times we are teaching like a bit of a step by step.
Mm,
And then other times it's more like the deeper work of like, what's underneath this? Why am I so triggered? But this one
mm,
we find is pretty simple to follow.
mm,
And basically it's 4 steps. You set healthy, very strong agreements that are very different than compliance statements in a calm time.
mm.
Then when a kid pushes back, you go to empathy. Then
Ah,
you have them restate the agreement, which engages their critical thinking skills. And then you do
mm,
empowerment prompting, which is giving them power. So giving them
mm,
choices or putting them in charge of how they'll execute the
mm,
firm boundary. Um, but that is like just one way to get out of the power over
mm,
structure. And to dig in a little bit more, like just to start off in the
mm,
beginning, most parents are used to giving compliance statements, right? So if a kid is like going out on a play date, they might say, okay, be good, be nice
mm,
to your friend, especially if they're little, right? Like, be a good boy. Like, I don't want to hear
mm,
about any resistance at gymnastics class or whatever. And there's no real buy in from the kid. The kid doesn't understand
mm,
why there's like this firm boundary. It's more of like, I'm telling you what to do, and I want you to nod your head and say yes. And then we have an agreement, right? That's not an agreement. That's a compliance statement. Again, most of those
mm,
kids, especially power kids, will
mm,
buck up against that system. So instead, you set the boundary of like, hey, when you go on play dates, like I know you love to have fun with your friends
mm,
and I know sometimes in the past it's ended with like tears, especially if it's a birthday party with a jumpy. So what can we do
mm,
today to empower you to like have great
mm,
self-control and to be able to always show your friends respect? Like, let's make some agreements on how you're going to handle yourself in the jumpy, or whatever, if you have a teenager and they're going out for the night, like, let's make an agreement on why we want to stay out of a car with a drunk driver. And then
Hmm.
we help them get the buy-in, so to speak, so they understand how fences and firm boundaries really honestly do benefit them. Like, we're not just doing this because we're like, respect thy authority. We're like, we
Right.
really want them to thrive and have good relationships and come back from the party smiling and like not get the
Mhm.
goose egg on their head from the jumpy, right? Like we want them to thrive, they want to thrive, so we're like
Right.
on equal footing. And then
Mm,
when they start to push back,
mm,
when the time comes, that's when you go straight to the empathy. It's like, hey, I get it. I get it. Like being wild and the jumpy is like, yeah, it's fun. The energy is wild in there,
mm,
right? Like it makes sense while you're like it's a mosh pit. And what was our agreement? And then you wait for a child to engage their critical thinking skills. Strong-willed kids especially, they love to know the answer. They love it when they're like, "I know, I
mhm,
know, I know," right? And so you wait, you let them lead, and then you're like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, you're right. We had talked about that, right, before you left. So here's your
mhm,
choices. Do you wanna try again and just, like, make sure
mm.
you keep that space bubble around you? Or do you wanna just take a break and go get a slice of pizza?" I know I gave some different examples there of, like, older kids, younger kids, but that's just, like, one for an example of one of the strategies that we teach that can just replace the "do what I said because I said so, and if you don't, you're never going to a party with a jumpy again. Do you hear me?" Right? Like, that's kind of the autocratic approach.
That was perfect. I love that. I love that so much, and I think in order to really trust yourself in using these brand new strategies, you have to learn to really trust your intuition because you are breaking these patterns. So, on Never Miss a
True.
Monday, we talk a lot about non negotiables. For me, it's the way I eat, it's daily
Mm.
exercise, being out in nature every day, which I know you talked about as well. What are some of Wendy's non negotiables on a Monday or any day?
Oh, I love that. So for myself, right? Like as a business owner, as a
Mhm.
person, not necessarily as a parent. That's the question, right? So my non-negotiables these days is I do watch the sun rise every day and I do
Mm.
watch it set every day. So I live in California, so I'm
Mm.
lucky. The weather is beautiful and I have the perfect sunrise window. So I do
Yeah.
that. And then every evening I hike with my dogs up to a point where I see the sunset
Oh.
over the ocean. So that's kind of has turned into non-negotiables. Like I have to get that hike every day, especially. And then meditation for me has become a non-negotiable. There are days when I'm still not like I've heard Seinfeld's been has never missed a day in like 30 years. I'm not there yet, but that is a huge desire that I want to be like Seinfeld level commitment with my daily transcendental meditation practice and prayer.
Mm.
I do a little co-creation prayer at the end of mine. And then what are my other non-negotiables? I think in this current stage of my life, it is that I am authentic to my voice and that um I practice like just not masking at all. Like I'm really in a season of life where I'm just like
Mm.
it's just not okay anymore to like not say what I feel strongly called to say and speak and stand up for. So, I don't know. That's my
Oh
answer
my
as
god,
of right now.
those were beautiful, Wendy, like, beautiful. I'm with you in your sunset and sunrise and all of it,
Mm.
honestly. I'm love it so much. So if a parent could remember just one thing from today's beautiful conversation, what would you hope it to be?
That they're doing a great job. If they're here listening to your podcast,
Mm,
Stacey, and they are here with us right now and part of this conversation, they are doing a great job. They are part
mhm,
of a movement of parents who I always say that truly give a damn, that are willing to
mhm,
spend an hour of their day listening to two women talk about how we can upgrade our family legacies. I truly believe that that's how we bring more peace into the world is we, as Mother Teresa said, if you want more peace
mm,
in the world, you start at home. You go home and love
mhm,
your family.
mm,
And So yeah, just thank you to all the parents who are here and who care and are willing to look at their patterning and really be very conscious
Mhm.
and intentional about what they are choosing to hand down to their children because we are just all so at choice and every day is an opportunity to start fresh and do it a new way that is like fully in line with your heart and your morals and your values. And if you don't know how to
Mhm.
yet, that's okay. Just pick up our book or, you know,
Yeah.
um, listen, I don't know, just start learning, but start today. You're doing a great job. That's the big takeaway.
That's beautiful. I love all of that. Where can listeners connect with you, learn more, and take their own fresh start?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, please come pre order the book. We're so excited to have this book out in the world. We have so many different programs at Fresh Start Family, but having this book be so
Mhm.
accessible, it comes out in May, but you can pre order now. So, freshstartfamilyonline.com
Mhm.
/pre order. And we have lots of great bonuses available for any of our families who hop in and pre order. When you're an author, publishers really love the pre orders because that helps places like Target or Barnes and Noble or Amazon really pick up the numbers and support the authors. So thank you in advance to anyone who picks up our book and takes advantage of those pre-order bonuses. The book again is called Fresh Start Your Family:
Mhm.
Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home. And then lastly, Stacey, if they do want to just hop right in to free education with us, they can head to freshstartfamilyonline.com /power struggles. That's where we teach a free 1 hour class for parents raising strong willed kids who want to do it in a new way and feel empowered and connected to those beautiful cactus kids.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely pre-ordering your book. I cannot wait to read it, and I will tell you all my
Thank
thoughts,
you.
and I will use it all on my children. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. And what I loved most about this conversation, Wendy, is that the reminder that parenting isn't about fixing ourselves or our kids. It's about leading with presence, humility, and compassion. And maybe the fresh start we're all craving begins with offering ourselves a little bit more grace. Thank you so much for being
Yes.
here,
Amen,
Wendy.
Stacey. Thank you so much for your support. This was such a fun conversation.
Loved every second of it. Thank you.